It was pretty much written up front on the visa that it's a single entry 30 days visa. She didn't had any clue. I feel this is a crazy American behavior.
Jen is in a spot of bother with her visa situation this week, and it's safe to say her immigration attorney isn't impressed with her. So does this news mark the end for Jen and Rishi?
I just feel like maybe this is just God telling me that this is not the right relationship for me, that I need to just stop trying to make this work.
Jen is alone in a foreign country grappling with a lying fiancé, a family that probably won't accept her, and now she's also got some upsetting visa news. She's had enough and she can't take anymore. Should good things really be this hard? But before we get to the part where it all falls apart, let's see some of the positive growth that Jen and Rishi showed at the start of this episode. So when we left the pair last week, Rishi had just put Jen through wife training. He made her go to his friend's house and try out the responsibilities of being an Indian housewife, instead of, say, doing what a normal person would and just explaining to her what it involves. But that shouldn't come as a shock, because by now we all know that Rishi's not the best at explaining things. Either way, it's safe to say that that experience left Jen certain that she doesn't want to live with Rishi's family, and she let Rishi know that immediately after her training session.
I can't realistically live in a joint family and feel like that's gonna work for me.
There is a lot of things to think about.
Yes, Rishi, there absolutely is a lot to think about. But all of this thinking, I feel like it should have been done in the 2 years leading up to Jen moving to India, not now. It's a bit late now. These issues shouldn't be coming up after Jen's already moved to India and expecting Rishi to marry her. So here's a serious question. What on earth did these guys even talk about to each other for 2 years? How did this not come up as a topic for conversation?
It doesn't seem like you're compromising on much of anything, and I gave up like my whole life to come here to live, and it's been really hard for me.
Jen's not wrong. She's the one who's been doing a lot of bending over backwards in this relationship. And I've yet to see Rishi do a single thing to show his commitment to Jen. But that being said, and I hate to sound like a broken record here, but how did they not talk about this to each other before? It's crazy. I don't know about you, but if I was moving across the world to be with someone after 2 years, details on where we're living, when we're getting married, are we having children, those would be pretty high up on my list of things to discuss. But clearly that's just me. I'm not on a reality TV show now, am I?
What can I do for you?
What are your thoughts on, after we get married, not live in a joint family?
It seems like Rishi's finally realised that his wishy-washy answers are no longer going to get him anywhere, and he'll need a far more direct approach to offer Jen the support she needs. And Jen is finally ready to ask for what she wants, and that is not to move in with Rishi's family. Now, of course, while this is an important discussion to have, does anyone else feel like they're skipping a step here? Like, it's all well and good to try and figure out the details of their life after marriage, but isn't that a bit like putting the cart before the horse? Shouldn't they first talk about what it will take to get married? What are all the hurdles involved and how do they overcome them? That should be a bit more pressing, no? But regardless, this is the issue they're choosing to deal with, and Rishi isn't liking where it's going.
Not a small thing like to live separately from the family. It's a very big deal to live separately according to the Indian culture. It's going to be a big issue for my family to accept that I'm not live with them. Jen is the only woman that I risk my relationship with my family because I love her.
The reality of life in a joint Indian family is that the sons bring in their wives to the household, and it's the wives who will help to run the household. That is all done so the mum can take it easy as she gets old. The children are raised under the same roof as the grandparents, and eventually the son and his family look after the elderly parents. That's the circle of life. The kids grow up, they become of marrying age, and then the whole cycle continues. Now, if Rishi was an only son, then by leaving the home, he'd be leaving his mother and uncle behind. He'd leave them with no one to look after them as they age. But we need to remember that Rishi does have a younger brother. So while there's clearly a lot of pressure on Rishi to bring home a bride, pressure that from what I understand is intensified because he's the elder of the siblings, the cycle doesn't necessarily end with him. If he and Jen were to choose to live away from the family, well then his younger brother would still have an opportunity to bring back a bride.
I mean, is that like a deal breaker for you?
This is what's my first choice, where we can live together, where both the family are happy.
But they're not both happy, are they, Rishi? You'll be happy because you get both the things you love under the same roof. But Jen's telling us that this will make her very, very unhappy. She's not willing to do it. Look, what's good to see is that Jen is willing to draw very clear boundaries. And even though they're probably not what Rishi wanted to hear, he needs to hear them. He needs to listen to them, because pretending that these issues don't exist isn't going to help anyone.
I love you, but I also have to love myself, take care of myself.
I know you did a lot of things. You moved here for me first, so I can do for you.
Wow, what's this feeling welling up inside of me? Is it pride? Yes, Jen, well done. Jen's standing her ground. She's backing herself. And Rishi's actually compromising. It's like they're both growing up before our very eyes. It's a big sacrifice to make on Rishi's behalf. But before we clap him on the back too much, it's worth remembering that his words are just words. And Rishi's words often don't mean much. All I'm saying is, I'll believe it when I actually see it.
And I hope it's true. I mean, you say that, but I don't know. I don't know if I believe you. Are you prepared to say, well, I don't care what you guys think?
Yeah.
Let's hear that yeah one more time.
Yeah.
I don't hear too much conviction in that yeah.
Yeah.
So we know that Jen's trust in Rishi is in tatters at the moment. So it's understandable that she's a little suspicious that he's once again just saying whatever he thinks she'll want to hear. Time and time again, when Rishi's put in a position where he has to choose between Jen or his family, he chooses neither by avoiding the whole situation. But will he rise to the challenge this time?
But to face my family was a really hard thing for me. I don't know how I will do this.
Rishi feels overwhelmed at the idea of having to face his family, so he asks Jen for a little more compromise. In return for his honesty, he needs just a little more patience, a little more time to confront them in a way that he's comfortable doing. The man's here acting like he hasn't already had 2 years to confess. But for whatever reason, Jen is willing to be patient with him. Don't forget, she's only got 4 months left on her visa, so she is on a deadline. But as we're soon about to see, that deadline is about to get a lot tighter.
I will agree to wait until the summer. I'm hoping that by agreeing to this, that you will keep your word and not make a fool of me or just string me along.
So at this point, things are feeling pretty positive for these two. They've managed to express their fears and frustrations with each other. They've set some goals and some timelines. There's been some compromise and understanding, and even some mutual respect. But it all hinges on both of them keeping their promises to each other. Given that Jen's already made the move to India, what's another few months in the grand scheme of things? That is, unless Rishi just decides that it's all too hard.
And I just hope that I'm not setting myself up for more heartbreak.
So the pair are in a good place. They're all on track, right? Nah, that would be far too easy, and nothing in this relationship is easy. Now, since Jen has 2 master's degrees, one would assume that that would make her pretty smart, right? But someone needs to take a closer look at her visa situation, because something isn't adding up.
I have a 4-month tourist visa in India, and I'm required to leave and come back every 30 days.
Now, I'm certainly no visa expert, but after a quick Google, I can see that there are 3 different types of tourist e-visas for India. A 30-day one, a 1-year visa, and a 5-year visa. So I'm not really sure what kind of visa Jen thinks she's acquired for herself. And it seems like Jen's confused as well, because unexpectedly, she suddenly announces that she needs to go and see an immigration lawyer about what she needs to do.
I have checked in your visa. Once, when you leave this country, you have to apply for the tourist visa again.
Uh-oh, Jen was under the impression that her visa was a multi-entry one. She thought she could whip to a neighbouring country every 30 days and then simply re-enter India to satisfy her visa requirements. But it's not that simple. It appears it's a single entry visa, and somehow she missed that vital piece of information. But wait, does that mean she only got a 30-day visa in the first place? I'm confused. What happened to that 4-month time frame that she thinks she has? Did Jen just make that up? And how could she miss something as obvious and important as the visa entry rules? Even the lawyer seems absolutely baffled by her mistake.
It was pretty much written up front on the visa that it's a single entry 30 days visa. She didn't had any clue. I feel this is a crazy American behavior.
Yeah, it's pretty insane behaviour. Even after 2 years of planning, Jen has got the quickest and cheapest visa that she could possibly get, and then appears to have just made up her own rules as to how long she's going to stay in India. I can't even begin to comprehend how she's messed this up so badly. And now she's running out of time. You might have missed it, but she mentions she's already almost at the end of her 30-day stay.
From what I understand, I have to leave the country every 30 days, and I'm approaching my 30-day mark.
This threw me immediately because from what we've seen, it feels like she's only been there for about a week. What's she been up to for almost a month? I mean, we've only really seen her move into her apartment, meet Rishi's parents and friends, do a fitness class, and fly a kite. But we're now told she's almost been there for 30 days. So all of those plans that she made earlier to give Rishi time to tell his family might now be thrown out of the window, because now she only has a few days until her visa runs out.
I mean, you're coming to India, get married to her fiancé, but she didn't know when is she gonna get married. Crazy.
Oh my gosh.
The immigration lawyer is very unimpressed with silly wacky Jen being her silly wacky crazy self. His advice to her is that her safest option is when her visa expires for her to return back to the States and reapply for another tourist visa. That's to say, to reapply when she has more information about her future. That is something she should have probably had in the first place. But Jen didn't even bother to read her visa. And now the stark reality of her situation is starting to get a bit too much for her.
It's like I'm banging my head up against the wall. Anything that's meant to be is not meant to be this hard.
It's not even that hard though, Jen. Millions of people do it every single year without any issues. You've just done this in a terribly unorganised, stupid way. The lawyer explains to Jen that if she even had something as simple as a date set for her wedding, they probably would have been able to help her. They would have been able to get her a different kind of visa. She would have been entitled to rights to stay in the country. But Jen and Rishi don't have a date set. Heck, as it stands right now, they don't even know if they're going to get married.
If you have a established stipulated date for me when you're going to get married, then things would have been pretty much different. We would have been able to help you out.
Look at Jen's face here. That's the face of a woman who's like, yeah buddy, I wish I had a date too, but I'm engaged to a man who seems to be allergic to telling the truth. But then, an idea seems to pop into Jen's head. Maybe she can engineer this predicament she finds herself in to benefit herself after all. So she asks the lawyer, how quickly would she need to have a wedding in order to be able to stay?
Roughly, what are we talking?
15 days, 20 days, you know.
That's scary for me.
Okay, now the fact that she asked that question makes me a little suspicious. Look, it's such a huge mistake to make about the visa. Could it be possible that Jen knew that she only had 30 days this whole time? Was her plan always to spring this on Rishi to try and rush him? I mean, Jen's verbal reaction does seem like she's shocked, but her face isn't really giving anything away. It's like her face and her words don't match.
I'm just not ready to commit to getting married in a month. I think I thought I was, but I feel like I want to throw up, actually. I just feel really sick right now.
Perhaps all of the lies that Rishi's been telling her have caused Jen to reevaluate whether or not she actually wants this relationship. But one thing's for sure, the pair definitely aren't ready to tie the knot just yet. And Jen identifies that what she needs more than anything right now is more quality time with Rishi in person, as opposed to going back to the long distance relationship that they previously had. Right now, a long distance relationship is the last thing that she wants. She's obviously heartbroken by the lose-lose situation. And now I kind of feel bad for being suspicious.
It's devastating. It's heartbreaking.
I feel really dumb right now for not having just looked more closely at my visa.
Okay, watching this, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it wasn't an intentional mistake, but it was dumb. It was really dumb. But at the very least, it does give us an insight into Jen's thinking. Like, we know from her friends that she's a hopeless romantic. She falls deeply in love and has a habit of getting badly hurt. And now it's looking very likely that she jumped into this adventure thinking that nothing could possibly go wrong. She was sure that this time would be magical, that she'd met her soulmate. Only now, reality is catching up with her. She's at her lowest, and she's losing faith, not just in her relationship, but also in the universe.
I just feel like maybe this is just God telling me that this is not the right relationship for me, that I need to just stop trying to make this work.
So Jen's stuck between a rock and a hard place right now. She has 6 days left on her visa. She needs to set a wedding date if she wants to continue to stay in the country. She has a fiancé that just asked her for more time, and she herself isn't feeling ready to commit to him just yet. It's a tough situation to be in. But I'm curious what Rishi is going to think about it all. Will he be heartbroken? Or will he see it as a secret blessing? Because now, if Jen has to go back, he's going to have way more time than he anticipated to break the news to his family. So with all this in mind, given the seriousness of the conversation Jen and Rishi now need to have, where would you have a conversation like this? In the privacy of your own home, perhaps? Maybe at a quiet restaurant? Nah. How about in the busy Indian streets of Jaipur, right next to a tea seller's stall who's just going to stand there and watch you?
He highly recommended that I go back to the US, and I don't know how long it's going to be before I can come back.
Jen lays the bad news on Rishi, and they both begin to tear up, next to the curious eyes of the tea seller, who's probably wondering what the heck is going on. Now, Jen explains that if she goes back to America, it's going to mess up everything they've been working so hard on over the past month. And she also says something very unexpected.
I'm gonna have to face my family, friends, and them putting pressure on me to stay. It's gonna be hard for me to motivate to come back here.
Jen says what we already knew, that she's really not looking forward to going back to the US, feeling like a failure. She doesn't want to have to hear the "I told you so's" from her friends and family. But she also reveals that if she does go back to America, she might find it hard to ever want to return to India again. Since arriving, it seems even we didn't realise just how much the foundations of their relationship had been shaken. That, combined with the shock of briefly imagining having to marry Rishi in the next month, means Jen now seems completely unsure whether this relationship is actually what she wants.
I already know it's gonna be extremely difficult legally, but also there's a lot of stuff that we need to work out.
Jen's finally recognised that she jumped into this trip completely unprepared, not only with all the unknowns about their future, but also with getting to know Rishi again on a base level. Falling in love again. Jen is obviously upset about the situation. There are clearly tears in her eyes and a wobble in her voice. So what about Rishi? How's he taking the news?
I'm sorry,
Rishi also seems upset, although I think he's going a bit overboard wiping away that one single solitary tear. Do I doubt that he's upset? No, I think he is genuinely shocked and surprised by this news. I think he's hurt. But one thing this has done is it's caused them both to question the future of their relationship.
We did a long distance relationship for the last 2 years, and it was nearly impossible. This time it's gonna be harder. His family might pressure him into an arranged marriage.
So is that it? Is Jen going back to the States? Are she and Rishi going to have to go back to a long distance relationship? Well, not so fast. It's not quite so clear cut, because at the end of this episode, we're given a teaser as to what to expect for the rest of this season. And one thing stood out to me. It seems like Rishi breaks the news to his family that he and Jen are in a relationship, which leads me to suspect maybe the shotgun wedding hasn't been ruled out after all. Watch this space.
जैन की उम्र कितनी है? ऋषि जवाब दे यार।
क्या सोच के किया भाई?